So we're going to be live in a second. Do you want to start?
With our welcoming?
We'll be live in a second.
Sure, I can be our welcomer. And we are welcoming people right now. Welcome, everyone, to the Staying Sane podcast with your hosts, myself, Cassandra McLean, and Albert Nierenberg. We are both in the field of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and we like to talk about how we can stay sane in these crazy times, in this insane world that we live in. How do we either stay sane or return to sanity individually and collectively? So each episode or live stream, we like to have a topic, and today we're going to be talking about beauty, aging, and self-perception, and the role of hypnosis and hypnotherapy to have more sanity and well-being in these topics. How are you today, Albert?
I'm not bad. I'm not bad. I'm just noticing on that subject of beauty and self-perception is that we can't, it's hard to admit, but sometimes the way we look, the way we present in the world really matters. If my face was falling off, the South Park has done this thing about Christy Nome, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, about how her face is always falling off because she's so concerned with beauty. That we live in a culture where where the way we present matters a lot, and there's a lot of hypnosis, as you know, about this. Some of it, the more outlandish styles of hypnosis, and I'll give you an example. So one is there are people who do hypnotic facelifts, so you can hypnotize people to have a kind of facelift experience. There's also a new kind of hypnosis, which is based on anti-aging, that you can use hypnosis to slow down aging or even make you younger. And third, even crazier, there's quite a controversy around the issue of hypnosis and breast enlargement, because there was a study done in 1977. The study is kind of in quotes, which really showed that what was dramatic about the study is that women who did this process not only enlarged their breasts, but had to go out and buy different bras because their breast size had changed so dramatically. So all that is crazy and weird and interesting.
Those are very cool things that we can do with hypnosis, self-hypnosis. I do personally use self-hypnosis for anti-aging. I'm programming my subconscious not only to look more youthful outwardly, but I go so far as deeply programming my mind that my telomeres are actually lengthening. So the number one thing that causes I shouldn't say the number one thing. There's only one thing that causes aging. When you get down to brass tacks and strip away everything away, it's the length of your telomeres. So they shorten, and as they shorten, the effects of aging happen.
Can you explain, in a little bit of detail, what telomeres are, just so for people that are wondering?
So I believe that they're inside of your DNA, or that may be wrong. It's they're on your chromosomes. Sorry. So the telomeres are the little tips of your chromosomes, and they get kind of worn down, like the plastic bits on the end of a shoelace. We have that on the end of our chromosomes, and there are telomeres, and it stops your chromosomes from fraying or breaking down. But the protective cap itself does begin to break down, and it is
that
made
makes
up
sense.
of DNA.
My understanding is also as the telomeres break down, your ability to replicate yourself, to reproduce yourself, is diminished, and so as a result of that, we age. We're not quite what we used to be. We're starting to sort of fall apart, so to speak, just like our telomeres. So yeah, so tell us, like, to give us an idea, what do you do and how do you do it?
Well, specifically on this topic, I visualize that my telomeres are strong and resilient, and that they're not breaking down. They're resisting the effects of breaking down. Now, the science is that every time that a cell replicates, the telomere shortens a little bit. Every time a cell divides, which is happening all the time. So cells are dividing, and each and every time the telomeres are just getting a little shorter, a little shorter, a little shorter. So I like to use visualization where I'm just like I'm like a mutant, basically. I think it's completely fair and accurate to say that I use self hypnosis to make myself a mutant humanoid where I'm not aging or operating like the average person. I'm built more resilient from the cellular level because anything that you're not controlling with your conscious mind, right? Like I'm going to drink this cup now. I'm going to have a sip. I'm going to, talk to Albert or talk about this topic. My heart is beating all of that time. My belly is digesting what I ate. My subconscious is doing all of that stuff that's not only things that I don't think about, but that maybe I've never thought about. And that includes cell division. That includes what's going on with, like I could tell you a very cool story. Probably my first ever phenomenal success with self-hypnosis. It's not beauty per se, but it shows how we can master our physical form through the power of the mind. So I was on an airplane. I had just boarded an airplane, and I knew like I didn't feel too. Something felt like a little like, but whatever, fine. I felt fine, and then I'm on the airplane. Buckle your seatbelt, and I feel like I have to go to the bathroom like really badly. I have to pee. I have to pee. As soon as that seatbelt sign, clicks off, I go to the bathroom. This is a little bit medical, okay, like gross or not. It's just this is the reality. There is a very specific scent that comes with having a urinary tract infection or a UTI. And when I went to the bathroom, it was there. And I'm like, fuck me. I cannot have a UTI on an 8-hour flight right now. I can't. Because if men maybe don't know this, but every woman knows a UTI means you are in the bathroom. It just constantly feel like I have to be, I have to pee, I have to be, I have to be, I have to. It's like so maddening. And then you're going and like nothing's coming out. It can be burnt. It's like, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. And I'm just like, no. I just decided like, no, I am not getting a UTI right now. This is over now. And I went back to my seat on that airplane. I put my like, wah, 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 wah music on, like binaural beats or whatever meditation track I was using at that time, just that, not verbally guided, but just sound. And I personally find that I always have amazing meditations on an airplane. I don't know if it's about altitude or that you're surrounded by white noise or there's something about it. It's very deeply trance inducing for me. I was already there, put the thing on, and the visualization that I used in that moment was I was channeling the energy of Mars, god of war, and I was like championing that my army of healthy cells was going to find the bacteria in my urethra and we were going to kick their ass and we were going to wipe them all out. And I stayed in there for like 1 hour and I decided that's it. That happened then. And the next time that I get up to go to the bathroom, all I'm going to do is be sweeping out the dead carcasses and it's over. That was my decision when I sat down into that. You can call it meditation or you can call it self-hypnosis. There's a lot of overlap and we can pick apart the vocabulary if we wish, but it's not so relevant in this moment. I went in, zoop, I made that decision. I stayed very on top of that. A war was raging within, but meanwhile, I'm sitting on the plane like this. But inside, it's just like, like go get attack for maybe 45 minutes. And I was like, that's it. Then I went to the bathroom another time. I was like, we're just flushing out the carcasses. No UTI. This is a success story. It was like magic.
In your previous experiences, when you felt like a UTI developing, I know that can be quite common, that it just kind of ran its course in previous experience, but this time you stopped it cold. Is that your point? You stopped it cold through
stopped it cold. And it was the first time in my life that I decided I'm working within my body at perhaps it's not a cellular level at that point, although perhaps it is, but at a microscopic level, right? It's a little bit more than saying, oh, I have a headache and I'm visualizing that my head feels well, but really going deeper and deeper into microscopic levels of cells are fighting bacteria and my good guys and the bad guys, and that level of inner self-mastery. Now, how can we apply that to beauty?
Well, yeah, but also maybe first of all, maybe some natural skepticism. Just I'll explain like where I what I often wonder about with self-hypnosis. So I do self-hypnosis. I find it very powerful. I believe in it. I think it really works. But there are often things that I find that are concrete. I'll give you an example. Let's say I wanted to have stronger hands. I could do self-hypnosis and I can feel my hands, meaning the hypnosis might be I can feel my hands getting stronger. And then I could also tell you what the mechanism is, which is that the unconscious part of me that connects to my hands, which I can feel, is now becoming stronger and is getting more oxygen and is getting more energy, and the body is giving it more resources. What I'm saying is that that's a kind of concrete and visualization based on a perceived reality. I can feel my hands. With other things like maybe a UTI, or well, maybe UTI is the same thing, because I imagine you can feel it as well. It might, I just wonder if where people would say, if it's something that you can't really imagine, like your telomeres, like I cannot feel my telomeres, or maybe you can. So it's hard for me to imagine my telomeres lengthening the way I might be able to imagine my hands getting stronger. My point is,
Hmm.
one thing is kind of a little bit more concrete than the other. So I can see where self-hypnosis applies. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're speaking at grosser versus more subtle levels of the physical reality. So at a certain density, we have sensory perception. Like I can feel that this is my arm, but I can't feel that there's a cell inside of my epidermis that's
Right.
dividing right now.
That's right. And you've probably never felt that, I would guess, but maybe you can imagine feeling it.
I believe that that is the secret, is you want
Ah,
to
ah,
imagine
ah, ah.
the feeling.
Imagine the unimaginable. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going.
Imagine the unimaginable. I'm right there with you. Imagine the unimaginable and allow yourself to believe it. That's really key. So where skeptics get stopped, and it's like, you know, I'm a recovered skeptic. I'm a recovered
Me too.
atheist. Yeah, it's like it's just there's this egoic arrogance of being right about things that ultimately are just holding you back from having a more expansive experience of the world. Like, congratulations, you can be right about it, but or you could be right that yeah, this isn't going to work, and then I could just be miserable for an 8-hour flight with a UTI, or I can believe in
That I
my
can fight this.
power and stop it in 45 minutes and walk out of that airplane bathroom feeling like an invincible champion, like I am the god of war, and I just galvanized every cell in my body to take an invader out. Like that feeling of being empowered is so worthwhile if you allow yourself to believe that it is possible for you. It's that permission. I feel like that's really a key ingredient to the broader topic of self mastery, mind mastery, mastery of oneself, including how my physical health is, how my mental health is, my emotional health, my well-being, and yes, how I look. How is my skin aging? How is my hair growing? What's going on with all the things I call myself? That I think a big part of it is give yourself permission to be more powerful than you currently believe you are.
And one way of doing that is to maybe work into the mystery of I don't need to know practically exactly how I'm doing it. My unconscious mind wants me to be healthy, wants me to be strong. I can ask it to, for example, find my telomeres to the best of its ability. That's one of the, I don't know if you use the same language, but when you often give a hypnotic instruction, you use the term to the best of your ability, because if you just say, hey, unconscious mind, find my telomeres and lengthen them, there's a kind of foolishness maybe to that, because the unconscious mind doesn't always know what you're talking about. But if you say to the best of your ability, the unconscious mind begins searching, trying to find a way, trying to make it happen, and then maybe making it happen. It's a little bit of a different strategy. But I agree. I think I mean, I'm not so sure about all the mysterious phenomena, meaning the things that might seem impossible. Like I know this is done frequently with cancer recovery, where where people are encouraged to visualize themselves healing, light burning off their tumors, that kind of thing. That does make sense. And and there actually, I think, is even a little bit of research around it.
There is research around it that people who integrate visualization of themselves healing will heal 30% faster than the control group who they're
Who
doing
don't,
these. You
doesn't.
can't just do it. If you have stage 3 cancer, you're going to want to do the chemotherapy. You can't
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just
I
go
know.
and I'm going
Yeah.
to get but when it's used as a complementary modality, the acceleration of progress by a third, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So, we were going to mention some of the sort of more outlandish or apparently outlandish hypnotic approaches that people might or might not be aware of. Like, for example, the hypnotic facelift. So, I remember when I first got into hypnosis, you had mentioned this idea of like when you close yourself off to things, you don't know what you're missing. And I remember sort of seeing there were these people that practice something called hypnotic facelift. And the idea was, pay some money and these people will hypnotize you to look younger. And of course, I was like, scam alert. I was like, that sounds crazy. This is totally outlandish. There are some things that hypnosis absolutely works for, but facelifts would not be that. And so, and I'll tell you like a story that happened to me that changed my thinking around it. So I've done sometimes when I do salons, a salon, what a hypnotic salon is that you're a small group, 10, 12 people gather around and we experiment with hypnotic phenomena. Or people make requests. Can I try this? Can I do that? And the hypnotist carefully often puts them into these sort of more playful trances to see what kind of happens. And so I remember being in a group where there were some people that were really great at going into very deep trance. And a lot of it is we did sort of classic experiments where can we make people disappear? So you may know this where you can hypnotize somebody so they can't see one person in the group. They can see everybody else, but they can't see that one person. And that's a very interesting phenomena. So we did that and had the person go in and out of trance. Then they did because it was kind of funny. I remember the person who was in trance started laughing. They laughed really hard. Anyways, to make a long story short, and this particular session, this woman came back from this experience. So we woke her up, came out of trance, and then everybody was looking at her, and somebody said, "Holy cow, what happened to you?" And this woman was probably somebody in her late 40s, I would guess, or maybe early 50s. And we were all like, "Yeah, what happened to you?" She looked 20 years younger. Her complexion was creamy and like she looked a bit like she'd had a workout because she did. She'd been going in a trance. She'd been laughing really hard. She was breathing really hard. It was a physical workout, but she also looked exceptionally as if she had youthified or gone back in time 15 or 20 years. And I have now seen this over and over again. I would say there are rules to it. The person must have a deep trance, meaning it can't be just a kind of shallow hypnotic trance. Two, that it's important that they go in and out of trance a bunch of times because the trance has to be really deep. And three, that there's some kind of de-stressing going on. Like she was laughing really hard. She was practically laughing until she cried. So she was sort of releasing a lot of stress. And then when she came out, she really did look a lot younger. And so I was like, ooh, the hypnotic facelift is real. Now, how would I explain it? I would say that what's going on here isn't that it's not a facelift, but what's going on is people show their age and not only show their age but manifest their aging by the stress in their faces. So if you carry a lot of stress and a lot of worry, it comes through in your face. But not only that, you are aging yourself in that behavior. So by carrying tons of stress and worry. But literally, it becomes, and this is well known in acting, that these factors actually get baked into the face, meaning if you're spend your days stressed and worried, then it's kind of baked into your face and that's kind of who you are. And you might look a good 10, 15 years older than you are. Now you then experience a dramatic hypnotic experience where you go very deep. this face de-stresses. And now when I do this, and I do this, I actually do what's called a line by line. So I have the person imagine all the lines of cells. It's a bit what you're talking about, cells in their face. And then we relax each line of cells, and there are probably in effect thousands or millions as we go down their face. So it's a very slow and
Interesting. You're moving down the face. So I move up
yeah, actually
because we
you can,
want things to go up. We want to go
yeah,
anti-gravity.
yeah. I would guess actually the best process is first have the face let go. So you want the face
Mm.
relax and let go, and then move back up as you sort of return to alertness. And I can say my experience is that if you get deep trance, it absolutely works. The person, would be my testimonial that the person looks 10 years younger, and the effect lasts about 2 or 3 weeks. And because they are who they are, they go back to their old patterns and habits. They may get carried unless they do the work of like carrying less stress in their face. But the point is that you could, if they like, they can keep doing it. And the difference is you're not risking some of the, the associated risks with things like Botox and some of the other, or plastic surgery. There's no medical risk at all. Zero. In fact, the
Right.
person feels good, as you know.
Right. I would think that a necessary piece of aftercare to maintain that effect is to continue the hypnosis to tell the subconscious mind, when I feel stressed, I no longer need you, mind and body, to furrow my brow. I'm going to get a stress ball and keep it on my desk at work and pick it up, like retrain a behavior, because there is a sensation that's happening. Until you do deep hypnotherapeutic work, like the work that I am, hypnotherapy as a path of healing and enlightenment, meaning peace under all circumstances, very much inner peace. Until you're pretty far into, okay, inner peace is my default, which can be a lot of work, you're going to have stress and anxiety, or bouts of this and that. So something needs to happen. The body needs to do something. We are these somatic, mind body phenomena. The body is defaulted to, I do this, but we can give the body and mind another thing to do, like squeeze a stress ball or whatever, tap a foot. I'm trying to remember. I did some work with some client a couple of weeks ago, and they had, what were they were doing some kind of stimming thing, something unwanted behaviorally, and we gave them, okay, another, you know what, and from now on, I integrated a foot tapping. Was like the something was wrong and the body was signaling it in some way that was very upsetting for the client. So I had them ask their subconscious, instead of doing that, how about just tap my foot? And when my foot starts tapping, I'll know, oh, that means I need to go do da da da. And so the foot tapping became now the new behavior. So we can do that same thing to stop something like furrowing of the brow or other, stressful or like
What's
muscular
funny?
responses.
What's interesting about that is that I did when I did this documentary, "You Are What You Act," and there's a crazy scene in it, which actually when I shot it blew my mind, where we found this woman who furrowed her brow. In fact, her story was that she furrowed her brow because she came from a family of very skeptical people, where it was valued. And I don't think this is a bad thing to be skeptical and question things, but her dinner table, she described growing up with her father, that her father was like the big skeptic, and he furrowed his brow, and then mom furrowed her brow, and brother furrowed his brow, and then so she grew up furrowing her brow. Now, what's intriguing about her story is that she then develops full-on clinical depression, and she tries a bunch of treatments, including antidepressants, and they don't really work. And her story is because she realized she still was furrowing her brow all the time. So she finally goes to a plastic surgeon who's it actually was a study that was a big deal, I think about 10 years ago, maybe longer,
It's been
where
longer.
yeah, where he basically paralyzed the muscles in her brow using Botox. So using plastic, but he's not doing it to improve her looks, just for the brow issue. And she stops frowning. And when she stopped frowning, her depression lifted. She said there was a remark, she could feel it happen. Now, once again, I don't think you need Botox to make that happen. It's just that Botox is it's intriguing how it probably worked, but you don't actually need Botox to make that happen. And it's good. These are kind of habits that people might want to look at. I think everything is in the face. I mean, this is a whole other podcast. So yeah, and you'll notice that people who have hold their face in particular ways are impeded by those expressions. So brow furrowing people are often excessively skeptical and it turns out depressed. Um, I think being able to relax your brow a lot in trance, for example, might be a really helpful thing. Anyway, so there we go with furrowing our brow. Some people are watching this, they're going like, I don't know about that. I don't know.
I know that you and I have talked about this topic before, and we're both a big fan of this work of this plastic surgeon who he is the person who coined the term the facial feedback hypothesis, where
Yeah,
his mother was
depressed.
extremely depressed and ultimately committed suicide. And he became a plastic surgeon, I believe, or some kind of surgeon. And then he thought he is the one who thought maybe people we think that when I'm sad, I frown. We think that that's the order of operations. Something happens, then I feel sad, then I have an expression of sadness. But it is proven that the body responds first. And then, and of course, this makes sense. Any basic understanding of neurobiology is like, oh, yeah, duh. The lower level of your brain is having the first response, and then it's reaching the frontal cortex at the very end. And our conscious minds are making sense of it or giving a label like, oh, it's sadness. So event happens, body response like a frown, and then my mind says I'm sad. So what he found was, yes, when we Botox and freeze the muscles so that they're incapable of making expressions of sadness or frustration or anger, that people who were super depressed, he was looking for the most treatment resistant depressed people that he could find for his study. He was only interested in like, you have to have done like electrostimulation, like resistant, your depression is resistant to everything, do my thing. And Botoxed them up, and I forget what the number was, but it was greater than 60%. It was like way above the half. Were no longer met the criteria, no longer met the diagnostic criteria for depression. So
Yeah.
developing mastery over your face and your facial expressions is really important to your overall health and well-being.
If I can add to this, and this is why this is important in how you approach things in hypnosis, is that what his study to me, how I interpreted this too, and also this whole project of You Are What You Act, is that it's what the body does. We are trained in thought, and people mistakenly think also this is good hypnosis. We are trained to change our thoughts. If you're a depressed person, then you need to change your thoughts. Well, what this study demonstrated, no, it might be more important to change your facial expression. It might be more important to change the way you move through the world, actually move through the world. And that is because these things have more bearing. These are the things that create our thoughts. If you have depressive posture, you think depressive thoughts. If you have a depressive facial expression, you think depressive thoughts. So that's part of the lesson here. And I have learned that because when I do this kind of thing in hypnosis, I would not have somebody, go into trance and say, now you're only thinking the most positive thoughts. I would have them go, you're standing straight and tall, you feel the wind in your hair, these kind of embodied states, and you're striding confidently forward because these are embodied states that the body understands, and then those create thoughts that are more positive and meaningful. And that's an important distinction because we live in a world right now where mostly people say, change your thoughts, change your life. I don't think that's true. Change your action, change your body, change your life.
I think the The truth is the
in
fusion
the
of
middle.
both. Yeah,
Yeah,
when you change your behaviors and your underlying beliefs, then your thoughts change, and furthermore, so will your life.
yeah,
But we can't willpower our way into changing your thoughts. It doesn't work. It doesn't, the subconscious rejects that. If I believe, returning to our topic of beauty and self-perception, if my deeply held subconscious belief about myself is that I'm ugly, and I just get old, I'm getting older and older, and I'm getting uglier and uglier, and nobody wants me. And then I'm like, I have to change my thoughts. And so I start repeating positive affirmations. I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful. I can do it 80,000 times a day. It's just going to keep bouncing right off, because there's that critical faculty, as we call it in our field, or there's a resilient layer of rubber that's the subconscious goes, you could tell me I'm not going to buy it. I know what I know. My deeply held belief is I'm ugly and nobody wants me. So repeating, you could tell me, people around the world could tell me I could become famous for my external beauty and deeply suffering inside, like, for example, a Marilyn Monroe. So to really experience a shift in self-perception, to be able to, when we were planning out this podcast, I shared with you that an unfortunate reality for many, many, many women of all ages, that every time they look in the mirror, they're immediately disappointed. It's just like, look in the mirror and it's like, all right, how can I fix this? Let me put on some makeup. I don't look like I used to. I'm getting baggier and saggier. Where'd that wrinkle come from? Why is this growing like this? I'm just, it's just like one rag on oneself over and over and over and over again every time you look in the mirror. Now, the impact of just that experience you have looking in the mirror every day, whether it's once, twice, or 20 times a day, on your whole life is huge. So how can
I,
we use our skills so that when you look in the mirror, or even before, you're like, feel good about how I look. I present the best that I can. I wear a smile on my face. I take good care of myself. I'm healthy and I radiate well-being from the inside out, and it shows. And I'm pleased with the way that I am.
it's a really, really deep question. I think, I was going to throw in this other mention this other study which blew my mind. So there was a study done of people that I think of fashion models and women that were considered to be the height of beauty in the beauty industry, and they found out that those women who were seen as perfect or near perfect had the same insecurities, that saw themselves as ugly or incomplete or defective as so-called women, let's say average women. And what that shows is that this is a cultural phenomena, that the culture somehow, I don't know if it's conscious or deliberate, but wants women to feel constantly insecure. They never arrive at a point where they go, hey, I look good. And it just never happens. And so, well, there's a lot of research showing, yeah, when you make people feel insecure about their looks, they go and buy things. They buy products, and eventually they buy cosmetics and things like that. But that, I would say, to answer your question, because that's a good question, is instead of, you can't just say, oh, I look great, I'm refusing to make myself feel bad. You may want to get to the root. Where did you start feeling inadequate? Where did you start feeling that because sometimes there's sort of a traumatic insult placed somewhere where that is still there. And if you can sort of discharge that, um, and you can be, it's easier to get to self-acceptance. And also to recognize, also to help sometimes to be social about it. And by social, I mean recognize as a social phenomena that the culture is trying to make women feel bad. And what's weird too is I would say, let's not just say women, it's bleeding more and more to everyone. I think men
Absolutely.
experience this too, because it may also be an unintended result of social media. You have everybody on social media posting their best photographs of them leading their best lives. And if you kind of post a picture, well, this is how I'm actually living, and then you sort of look at it and go, God, it's not like that guy or that woman, and you start to feel like, oh, I'm kind of ugly or meaningless or boring compared to them. Then that's nobody's doing that on purpose, but it's happening. And it's probably has a sort of corrosive effect. And there is an answer. I mean, I think the answer is, in hypnosis, the secret we believe is resource states, which is you find these states. There has been times in your life where you looked in the mirror and you said, "Hey, good looking, you look great," or somebody told you, "God, you're gorgeous," or you're just beautiful and amazing. Those were real experiences you really had, and they're based on truth. Like somebody looked at you and thought, "God, you're beautiful." And so you can go to those resource states and say, well, what was I doing then? And also, I am beautiful. It is real. I can be beautiful. And it is true. Part of it might be what we look at. Like I've noticed a really interesting thing in my life over years, that when I get closer to people, and especially when I start to love them, I really start to find them incredibly beautiful all the time. Like almost everything they do is beautiful. So it shows that it's incredibly biased phenomena, but also that we can improve our ability to appreciate people. It's obviously very flexible.
Right. As they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so,
Hmm.
from the subconscious perspective, not only do we want to improve our self perception to be able to regard ourselves and hold ourselves in high esteem and say, I'm perfectly fine looking. One thing that I've realized as an adult, when I was a kid, oh man, was I critical of everybody. Everybody was ugly or fucked up or bad nose or weird body or whatever. As an adult, honestly, I feel like, I don't know, 29 out of 30 people are beautiful. And that other one is just like, something very unfortunate, but if they just carried themselves a little better and and put themselves together a little bit more, they'd be everyone's beautiful. It's kind of,
Yeah.
we want to adjust our self-perception to be more generous and kind with
Yeah.
ourselves, but
Yeah.
we also want to open that lens as the beholder and see the beauty in others and be more generous and more, and look, it's seek and you shall find.
Yeah. I've
Look
often seen
for
these.
the beauty in others.
There's a
It's
lot of
there.
yeah, there's a lot of jokes and humor around, often men, but often women, like kind of seeing beautiful women on TV or in a show and then looking back at their girlfriend and going like as if they're horribly disappointed by their sad life. That's on you. Meaning if you're there going, spending all this time going, God, I wish my girlfriend was more beautiful. I mean, and not appreciating how beautiful she really is. I'm giving that as an example because I'm assuming that she really is beautiful and a wonderful person. Then that's on you, and that's you. You're going to do that with your next partner. You're going to do that even if you find somebody technically more beautiful. And that's why this ability to appreciate and see beauty in other people is so valuable. And then also apply that to yourself. One thing that I've learned, making these documentaries that sort of relate to these subjects, is that real, both beautiful beauty and actually sexiness is much more defined by action. Meaning, yes. So what makes it weird is I think we didn't have, before there were photographs, we saw somebody and probably thought, wow, that person moves in a gorgeous way. But now that when pictures came along, what we started to mistake was we saw people that look good in pictures are beautiful or sexy. And that's like the main criteria. And that's something that happened to our brains. But that's not actually true. There's a famous study that was done actually at Queen's University where they took people and they put little dots on them, which were electronic sort of electrodes that showed motion. And they had them walk on a treadmill. And what was interesting about this is that when you looked at so they had other people look at these images of people walking on a treadmill, and people could look at these like moving dots. All there was a bunch of moving dots, not even that many, like 5 dots. And they would go, ooh, that person's sexy. And they'd go, ooh, that person's not sexy. They knew exactly. And then when they actually saw the person, they confirmed their bias that they were like, the person that I thought was sexy, I really did find sexy because it is the way the person moved more than what they looked like that really counted. But what I'm saying is this also applies generally in life, that really what makes people attractive and sexy is what they think, what they do, sometimes how they hold themselves, how they express their emotions. Yes, the latent quality of their photographable personality does matter, but it's not it's not the monopoly it appears to be. If that makes sense. It's a pretty
That
weird
does
abstract
make
point.
sense, but we have to cleanse our minds of this cultural brainwashing that we're in trance of social media where everybody's on. Not only are they on a filter, first of all, you're not even
Yeah,
seeing what a person looks like, right?
right.
My own mother said to me, Cassandra, what are you doing to make your skin like so smooth? My own mother. I said, Mom, it's a filter. She was convinced, and it's funny because here we are having this conversation, and by it just simply in doing so, we're taking on a sort of leadership position. And yet, am I hypocritical to, well, I use filters on the apps, it's like, well, I feel like you have to play the game. If I don't use it, people aren't going to look.
Yeah, and I brush my hair and I make myself. We do all, we do a certain amount to make ourselves look better. Yes, I feel like that's a good point. We're doing it too, but I guess I think this is a reasonable semblance of who we really are. I don't look that different in real life, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, having smoother looking skin isn't like, some of these filters, they change your nose and it's like I have
That's
like a
right.
little like,
That's
and it's
right.
like, but I won't use that one because that's not my nose. That doesn't even look like me. Like there has to be some level. But really, for me, the important bit is whether I'm looking at a representation of myself that's been altered through a filter or an AI or whatever, or I'm looking at a photograph, or I'm looking at somebody else who may be altered by a filter or some AI adjustment or wearing more makeup or had a nose job. Like, I'm comparing myself born with all of this to somebody who's augmented and put, they've got $5,000 in their face of like everything and I'm like, oh man, they're so beautiful. Am I feeling good or bad about myself? That's really what it boils down to when we talk about self-perception. I know that I'm not a 10 out of 10 supermodel. I don't need to be. I think that I'm good looking and I'm good enough looking. And I'm content with the way that I look. I'm content with the way that I am. And I focus on my health and I focus on wearing a smile on my face and being kind. Hygiene, take care of yourself. You have to have practices of self care to be attractive. Just like, bed rot and unwashed hair and stinking and don't brush your teeth. That's problematic. There's a
Hey,
reason that
I've been
those
hearing
things
this
are
term
attractive.
lately. What does bed rot mean? What does that mean?
Okay, so yeah, bed rot is like a new slang term. I don't know if it's like Gen Z or but it's just basically when you lay in bed, either on your phone or just like Netflix binging, and you're all depressed and you're just like rotting away in
Right.
a
Right.
sedentary,
Right.
depressive state.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that's a look probably of your hair is messy and your clothes are rumpled and because you've been lying in bed all day.
Yeah, so that's problematic on a mental health level, right? And so
Yeah.
when your inner resources are depleted and your mental health is in decline or already in a problematic state, yeah, you're not going to look your best. You're not going to be radiating beauty because beauty and health are intricately tied. So having decent or better than decent self-care practices and a commitment to yourself and um again, I'm going to say hygiene. This is kind of essential. We can't just sit in a state of hypnosis all day and be like, okay, I'm beautiful. And then I don't brush my teeth and I go out and I've got like, I'm like all gross. And I'm like, oh, but I believe that's delusional, right? We don't want to use hypnosis to create delusions or hallucinations or something. You and I have talked about how there's some overlap of like psychotic states with hypnotic states at times. We're using hypnotherapeutically these tools and skills to infuse the mind with resources so that it's easier to take those steps of self-care, of saying, no, I'm not going to eat that second piece of cake. I don't need it because I like to feel healthy. There's no benefit of me gorging myself on carbs and sugar. It will make me physically ill. My belly, my colon, my intestines, my stomach, my liver doesn't want that. It hurts if I do that. So I won't. I'm healthy, and I happen to be slimmer. And slim means people tend to find slim a little bit more attractive. Why? Because it's correlated with good self-care practices.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about I did a whole documentary on what the science of sexual attraction. It was really eye-opening, in the sense that you realize that everything that correlates to sorry, to attraction often relates to health, healthiness, but with a bias towards reproduction, meaning is somebody a good reproductive choice, which may not matter if you're not trying to reproduce, and but it is interesting, like for example, symmetry has this sort of big weight in attraction, that people that have symmetrical features and behave symmetrically, because this is a sign of health. And I guess and the truth is that most people are pretty symmetrical. I mean, like we're not like we're hunchbacks or things like that, which is more a thing that happened in the medieval times. But what's interesting, everything that is, they're all things you can do things about. If you think you're not
Exactly.
symmetrical enough, then you just need to go to the gym. You just need to jog. The exercise will make you more symmetrical. Uh, and everything is something that you can usually do something about. And this belief that no, I've been cursed by bad looks or by bad genes is actually usually a thought, or a thought, a self judgment, not a reality. Can be challenged. You can become beautiful. I mean, that's what these shows, these you often terrible TV shows show, where they take somebody and remake them into a beautiful person, and you're like, oh yeah. But that applies to hypnosis. If you change your interior thinking, change your habits, you remake yourself, and anything is
Yes.
possible.
Yes, yes, yes. We want to, if not remake, but renovate
Yeah,
ourselves from the inside out, and it
yeah,
will show on your face. And if you want to be more pointed and explicit, you can do self-hypnosis, or perhaps I will create a product, or a track where you're really, one of the things, I talked about the lengthening telomeres. Another thing that I imagine, visualize in states of trance, is that my gravity, I this is a really fun one I made up. I visualize that there is like an orb of gravity above my head that's actually pulling, it's stronger than the gravity below my feet, and it's pulling my facial muscles up, because that's really, youth is that things are still where they originally were, and then gravity and time are what bring things down. So just using the power of visualization in trance, I swear to you, I feel it. I do. You're a hypnotist. I feel like things are like, oh, I can just go like a little more this way.
that makes sense to me totally. It's funny. There's an expression, people often joke about. It says, after 40, your face is your fault.
I
And
like that expression.
yeah, the point is that the way you look is a manifestation of the way you live. And if you want to, and if yes, genetics do matter. Yes, lifestyle does matter. Experience matters, but it's up to you to work with that the best you can, and also that you have probably more choices than you realize. I think that's a good example. Just and also another example is where this often comes up, is that people who look gloomy, there are people who don't smile very much, who have a kind of dark look to them, and all I can say is that's worth challenging. And there's even a study that would really light a fire under people's asses, which is the fire that says that smile intensity in photographs. I'm quoting the exact headline of the study. Smile intensity in photographs predicts longevity, meaning what they did in this study is that they measured people's smiles, like in their yearbooks or Facebook pictures and things like that. And somehow they can measure smile intensity. I think what that means is that, yeah, you have a wimpy smile or you have an intense smile. People that, on average, through their photographs, had more intense smiles lived longer than people who didn't. I guess this was done, over a long, period of time. Now, people would say, like, that sounds crazy. How could that be possible? Well, you could either, well, here's the explanation. Part of the explanation was people who were better at smiling who smiled more in their pictures also tend to have more social engagement. They smile more at people, they get
Mm,
smiled at more, they're more social and friendly. And people that are more social are more needed by the community, they're more part of the community. And so the community needs them to stay alive. And so there's some unconscious bias towards, longevity that's just based on smiling.
that's amazing.
And yeah, I think this is an amazing set. These are kind of like out there studies, but this one I particularly believe in. And so then people are thinking about that and go, oh, well, what do I say about that? I saw this picture of me. I remember this picture of me where I look pretty gloomy. What's amazing about this is so changeable. If this scares you, then you can start right away by smiling. And in fact, go one better, start laughing. Laughing more improves your smile. Laughing more makes you a bigger smiler. And the more you laugh, the more you smile. And then the more people smile at you, usually. So,
Sure, sure. Yeah. One thing you can do if you're somebody listening and you don't smile so much is just hold a pencil between your teeth.
yep. Yeah. Triggers smiling behavior. That's
It
right.
just it activates the muscles in the face that are activated when you smile. So your brain interprets it as if you're smiling,
Yep.
even if you're
Yep.
just not
Yeah.
even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And again, it's that facial feedback loop where your mind is reading what's going on in your body to understand what is going on.
Yeah.
What kind of state should I be in? If my
Yep.
body is relaxed and I have a smile, the mind's like, I'm safe and secure. I'm feeling good. And then that just keeps reinforcing and reinforcing. So you want to hack that loop any way you can.
And what's interesting about this is that I know that some people, probably more likely to be women, but hear this and would worry. They'd go, "Oh, if I laugh and smile more, aren't I going to create more crow's feet?" So crow's feet lines around the eyes, and it actually might be true. People who laugh more might have more crow's feet. I don't know if it's true, but it, common sense. But here's what's interesting about it. Research done on actually Botox, as I understand, showed that people gauge trust. So when people have laugh lines, which are the lines here around the eyes, we trust them more because they are probably more light-hearted people. And it's just like an unconscious thing. We don't think about it. We just notice, wow, that person makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's one way that Botox confuses us. So people that have Botox, they often have it right here. They lose their laugh lines. And then we actually look at them, and it might explain this phenomena where people look at people who've had Botox and go, I'm not sure. There's something that I don't
Eerie and
understand.
creepy.
Eerie, right? Because
Uncanny is the word.
yeah, because the math doesn't add up of the
Right.
face. And
Right.
so, and we these things are experienced unconsciously, but they are real, and we derive judgments from them. So, moral of the story is like old-fashioned things like smiling and laughing will never go out of fashion, and they are good and healthy and might even make you live longer.
Yes. And as we close out our wonderful conversation today, I would I would encourage, we don't have time to go down this philosophical rabbit hole as much as I would love to, but really the bigger question is what really is beauty? Is beauty a face that has no lines on it? Or is beauty a face that reflects happiness, joy, well-being, trust, as you say, a life well lived? A wrinkleless face at 50 may indicate to our deepest level of mind that person didn't live a joyful life. So are they really beautiful if they haven't been in the world enough to get some marks on them? We're
Yeah,
out in the world, we're jostling around with life. It's going to
yeah,
leave a mark. So it's up
yeah.
to us. Well, what kind of mark am I allowing or permitting or encouraging or inviting that life leaves on me? When I'm 80, I don't want to have no lines on my face. I want to be 80. I want people to think that I'm only 49. And I want that my face shows I've lived 49 beautiful years.
Yeah, but also I would say too that um, part of that is that maybe there's some consciousness needed on our part, meaning we can look at somebody who looks like we see the lines on their face and we see that they're aging. And instead of going, oh no, you're aging, oh, isn't that terrible? We go, yeah, I appreciate your wisdom and all the life that you've lived, and it comes out in this beautiful way in your face. And that kind of agency is okay. You might say, well, why do you have to do that on purpose? Because just being the spectator often leads you down the wrong path. So yeah, maybe as a spectator, I go, yeah, you are showing more lines. I see that somebody actually been responding a lot to what we're saying. So he says, I'm the filter
Hey,
queen. Um, I was too very judgmental. I judge no one now. Thank you, Only Me Keels, whoever you are. Thank you for your comments. Much appreciated. But we are wrapping up.
yes,
But
much
there's a lot.
appreciated.
Yeah, this is an interesting subject. So maybe we'll revisit it. Um, so I think our point is hypnosis can help with a lot of things. We mentioned hypnotic facelift. Facelift is real, but maybe in some ways temporary compared to maybe a medical facelift. Two, that you may be able to slow down aging. Um, and you also, we didn't get into this, you may be able to enlarge your breasts. That's a controversial one, but some people really think it can be done. So there's stuff to be explored here. It's all interesting.
I want to wish you the best of luck. Albert Nirenberg is embarking on a wonderful trip soon, elevating himself professionally in talking with MIT scientists and academics about hypnosis. So
Thank you.
it's an honor to be your partner in this space, and I look forward to hearing about your success soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing more about your new theories of how your telomeres are doing. Uh, that's exciting.
Yeah, let's see. I honestly, I should start keeping like a spreadsheet now so that I can do a longitudinal study on myself. And although it'll be a sample size of one, when I
Yeah.
look 49 at 80, I can finally sell this program.
Only Me Keels, who's been watching this, it says, you two are on point. Thank you. It's actually your comments are extremely interesting and wonderful, and we hope to see you here again. But
Yeah,
thank you
keep
for your
coming back. Find us
observations.
on Instagram. Find us
Yeah.
elsewhere. I'm Get Hypnotherapy on Instagram.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you soon. Remember to stay sane.